Okay, hi everyone. This is a public meeting of the Columbus Area Arts Council Application Review Panel convened to review and discuss the Indiana Arts Commission Fiscal Year 24 Arts Project Support Grant Program applications for Region 9. My name is Brooke Hawkins. I'm located in Columbus, and I am the panel facilitator for today. I will be reading off of a script provided by the IAC in order to keep everything fair and equal. Today is April 25th, 2023, and we are meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. There's no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting will be recorded and made available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists and staff to introduce themselves, stating their name, occupation, and where they're from in the state. So we'll start with the panel. And Esther, if you would like to go first.
Hi, my name is Esther Leomi-Afolayan. I'm a second-year Masters of Architecture student at Indiana University Bloomington, where I'm in Columbus at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue? If you want to unmute yourself.
I am Sue Hart. I'm a retired teacher of 33 years in Rising Sun. I'm a watercolor and acrylic artist. And that's about it.
Great, thank you. Blanca?
Hi, I'm Blanca Harada. I'm a visual artist, and I am the exhibitions coordinator at the Lawrence Art Center, and I'm actually located in Lawrence, Kansas.
Kyle?
Hello, I'm Kyle Kingan. I am the Public Services Circulation Assistant at the Heron Art Library based in Indianapolis, and I'm also a Columbus native.
Ty?
Good morning, my name is Ty Sullivan. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Foundation of Switzerland County, and we are located in Vevey, Indiana.
Great. Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Wadholm. I am the Operations Manager at the Columbus Area Arts Council, and I am also the Region 9 Arts Partner with the Indiana Arts Commission, and I am in Columbus, Indiana.
Great. And IAC staff, Andre, do you all introduce yourselves here?
Absolutely. Before we do that, Miss Elise.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Didn't mean to leave you out, Elise.
No worries. I'm Elise Tucker-Bounds. I'm the visual portfolio manager at an arts firm called Gang Gang in Indianapolis, and I'm located in Indianapolis.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Andre Sanxonera, Deputy Director of Operations and Strategic Partnerships with the Indiana Arts Commission, coming to you live from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Ashby. I am the Grants and Research Manager at the Indiana Arts Commission, also coming to you from Indianapolis.
Okay, great. Thank you all for being here. So now we will begin the panel review, and here's how the process will work. I will announce the application, and we'll review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based on the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note that the applications do not need to be recapped since everyone has already read it, so just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I will ask the second reader to present any new, additional, or opposing comments. We're not looking for consensus, just a full evaluation of the different perspectives panelists bring to the table. After the second reader has finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. And remember, in the interest of time, we're only looking for new or additional or opposing viewpoints. If a panelist has a conflict of interest, the panelist will be placed in the virtual waiting room while the application is reviewed. Finally, once the application has been fully reviewed by the full panel, we will ask the panel to update their scores in our online system. It is common for scores to change as a result of the broader discussion. The score saves automatically. And do we have any questions? Okay, then let's begin. So we'll start with the first application, which is Actors Community Theater of Seymour. And the first reader is Elise.
Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate all of that intro. So this first artistic quality, it was clear to me that what the work that they're doing is an artistic endeavor, and it is something that the community is excited about. Moving into the artist support, I did note that none of the actual players are being financially compensated for their work in the theater. So just from an artist support perspective, I would have loved to see some of that allocated to the actual performers. And tell me if I'm, going too fast or not speaking clearly, let me know.
I think you're doing a great job.
Awesome. Moving into community engagement, it was clear to me based on the criteria from the IAC that this was a really impactful community endeavor. The way that it engages all kinds of people and the way that they market what they're doing through social media and, putting out surveys to identify what kind of shows that they would like to do, and just the way that they are trying to work with the community seemed to be clear to me from the information that was provided that they want to do that and that those are efforts that they are making. And let's see here. My eyes are having trouble parsing my comments from the rest of the document. Oh, okay. So on the community engagement and idea portion, I did ask or mention that a clearer process of what the survey is and what the questions are and how that feedback is being implemented into the process would be helpful to see. They expressed that desire, but then just some more information on how they put that out there and how that feedback is implemented would have been really helpful to see. And how that is engaging underserved communities as well, how you're getting that feedback from those groups of people and how it's being implemented. And then moving through to the budget, I thought that it appeared outlined appropriately, though, again, I did mention that artists are not receiving compensation. So that's always a factor. And those were all my comments.
Okay, great. Then we will move on to Sue, the second reader.
I agree with a lot of what Elise said. The one thing I might add is that I didn't see how much ticket prices were, or if there was a way for others to attend it that couldn't afford it. That was probably the inclusivity aspect of it wasn't quite as clear as it could have been, but it looked like a very organized project and had a really complete timeline. So that's about all I have different than what Elise had.
Great. So then I will open it up to the rest of the group for any additional comments. Okay. If no one has any other comments, if you want to finalize your scores and update them on the online portal. And does anyone need more time to do that before we move on? Okay. So Andre, do we typically just pause here until everyone is finished updating?
Yeah, so normally somebody will give you thumbs up when they're all doing their scores. And then when you have a count that everybody gives you a thumbs up, you're ready to move to the next application.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, Esther, are you still working on yours? Okay, great, we're good to go. So we will move on to the next applicant, which is the City of Seymour Parks and Recreation. And the first reader is Blanca.
Hi, thank you. So the City of Seymour Parks and Rec, the Organic Art at the Community Center, is a mural project that's been proposed. The artistic quality, I found that the project itself was strong, but it would benefit from a deeper explanation of how the project itself will impact the community. As far as the artistic support, I stated that it would benefit from a further explanation of how the funds for this project are being used. Are the funds being given to the school art club or to the teacher / artist as her payment that she is then giving to the school art club? That part of the application was unclear. I did state here that if the teacher is being paid for this project, I don't really think it's her responsibility to be funding a school club, and therefore they maybe should have asked for a little more money to give her some compensation, but then also provide funds for the art club rather than her using her payment as funds for the art club. Under the community and idea section, I said it's a great idea. The project development itself and how it's going to impact the community was still a little unclear. There was no real mention of how the mural is going to impact the community's needs or how it's serving their needs. They did mention some demographics, but then there was no follow-up about how these communities were being represented or included in the creation of the mural. And there was also no feedback system in place, so they didn't have any way to measure the impact that this project would have or a way to collect feedback from community members about it. And then as far as budget and things like that, I didn't really have any feedback. The budget seemed fine, aside from the needing clarification between how the funds are being used.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll move on to the second reader, Ty.
Good morning. A lot of my comments kind of mimic what Blanca has already commented. I think that the survey feedback, taking it into action for your 5-year plan, was a good use of the survey feedback. I'm a little bit uncertain about how the funds go back to the art club, very similar to what Blanca stated, and again, from a teacher's perspective, I would like to see some compensation going directly to the teacher, but also to the art club, because I think that that's a good use of that resource to further impact the younger students. The pictures that were provided and the marketing materials, the hashtag Seymour Art, I mean, you can't get much better than that, in terms of a project that's going on in Seymour. So a very, very creative use of that. The timeline, I think, was good. I agree that some of maybe the negatives or my constructive feedback would be the details in the inclusion, diversity, and equity and access segment of the application seem to be lacking some details. Some further information I think could be provided there. And I felt like that there was a discrepancy in the requesting amount of the grant versus what the budget. There was a $3,800 versus a $4,000 discrepancy. So just some clarity there, I think could help us out from a budget standpoint. Other than that, I didn't have any additional comments.
Okay, I'll open it up to the rest of the group. Were there any comments? Okay, then go ahead and finalize your scores. Okay. Seems like everyone is done. Okay. Then we can move on to the third applicant, which is the Columbus City Band, and the first reader is Sue.
This program has been going for 170 years, so that happens usually because the community is supporting it. I appreciate the great outreach they had to include an art show beyond the music this year. And that included 4 high schools and a scholarship given in memory of a longtime member. So I was impressed with their outreach, their inclusivity that way. the fact that this is a free event to all who attend makes me appreciate it even more. That I think a lot of the inclusivity was the difficult part in several of these applications, and these guys have some things figured out, which is probably why it's lasted 170 years. But that's about all I have.
Okay. Esther?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Sue. The band is really great. And the fact that it's volunteer-based made it more interesting to read. And the addition I'll have is since it's been on for a long time, they could consider impacting and educating more local artists. Yeah, so that will be an interesting addition here.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments from the group?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't believe the participating performers receive any financial compensation from this programming. It's all volunteer. And so just taking note of that, if there's a way to start compensating these artists, these creatives.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, if you want to finalize your scores. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. All right. Then we'll move on to Columbus Scottish Festival, and the first reader is Ty.
All right. On this application, I found that this application was very detailed. There was a lot of good information that was outlined in this application, and the timeline was very well thought out and planned out. I thought so. Congratulations on the 30 years of the project or the event. I like to see that there was a variety of different things, from dance demonstrations, car show, crafts. So there was a great variety of different events or different interests for all the visitors. The outreach, it goes beyond the festival weekend with demonstrations at various locations throughout the community. So I thought that that was important, that they're expanding beyond festival weekend. I felt that there was a very thorough process to book their entertainment, and I like to see the details and time and effort that went into booking their overall entertainment so that they're getting the best bang for their buck in terms of their overall presentation. And I was very impressed with the diversity of amongst the festival visitors. I think that they had a great representation from different cultures, different countries, and visitors that actually attend this festival. One thing that I noted and highlighted over here was that they were always learning from the experience. So it seemed like each year over maybe the last 5-10 years, they've experienced some type of a hurdle, and they really try to look to overcome that, to try to prevent that for future years, but they just learn from that experience. So I thought that that was very impressive. The promotional materials were very strong. The budget was strong. And one thing in the budget that stood out to me was a considerable amount of in-kind contributions. So I like to see that community support for the overall project and event. And then there seems and appears to be very good leadership from not only the project, but also the board and the individuals that are participating. And then the number of artists that are being compensated, I thought was very, very respectable as well.
Okay. Second reader is Elise.
Yeah, so echoing some of the things that Ty shared, absolutely, but and also the applicant is and the festival is clear about the culture that it's celebrating, and that it is a celebration of culture for everyone. So I think when you're able to pinpoint what you're celebrating and who is invited, it really enhances the idea portion of a project, because there's no question about what the purpose of the celebration is, and that it's a community and inclusive and open environment for anyone to celebrate that specific culture. So I just think it's really great when you can communicate that way about something that you're putting on. And then the range of children's activities also enhances the inclusivity and the impact. Just having lots of things for kids to do so that people can bring their families. I thought that really enhanced the community engagement portion.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have comments?
I couldn't get the artistic example links to work, and that might just be my issue. But I also was very impressed and quite amazed at the number of 21 board members. I think that can be a wonderful thing to have that much leadership in a program. That was all.
Yeah, I also have an addition, which would be if they can consider paying the honorary fees to every artist that performs at the event. Yeah, this will kind of encourage more participation.
Great, thank you. If there are no other comments, go ahead and finalize your scores. Okay, I think we're all set. And we will move on to the next, which is Columbus Star Quilters with our first reader, Kyle.
So I was very interested in this project, especially since it's going on to the 18th year, it seems. So it seems like that the organization is very well thought out and structured. Especially for textile arts, I think that's very kind of a not as thought out or appreciated art form. So in terms of artist support, I did have a interest between the ratio of 4 artists being compensated versus the other artists that would participate. I think that the number directly benefiting could be a little bit higher. But community engagement, I thought was very well thought out, especially working with various groups such as Foundation for Youth and 4-H, and especially bringing on a online platform that they newly established. I thought that was a good way to keep in touch with various different people, especially across county lines. And then I think there's a handful of very dedicated members to keep the timeline going and as well to structure it out for the projected date. And the project management overall looked pretty great. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. Sue?
I agree with all of that. Their community involvement works quite a bit with the 5 schools, and they're beginning to reach out to 4-H leaders to see how they can best collaborate with them. I appreciated the fact that they were allowing free admission to school groups and to the FFY led groups. Yeah, the details and the timeline and in the management was very impressive. So that's all I have.
Okay, great. Anyone else have comments? Okay, if you, Elise?
Oh, thanks. I did want to see for this applicant some more information on how their public surveys and engagement surveys are distributed and how they track and implement feedback from those. And then I did see an effort to reach out to a younger platform. And so I wondered if some more social media marketing on different platforms like Instagram, in addition to Facebook, might be helpful for that.
Great, thank you. All right, if you want to finalize your scores. Okay. And then we'll move on to Ethnic Expo. And we do have a conflict of interest here. So I think Elise will move into a virtual waiting room, and I will have the first reader as Esther.
Yeah, thank you so much. Under the artistic quality, I would say the initiative is great, and the goals and the impact of the projects was clearly stated. And under the artistic support, the project supports locals, which is really nice to see. It was also great to see the number of artists that they plan to impact with the project. And I think adding to this number will be great, saying that it's an enormous project. For the community engagement, the project is large, well thought out and planned. I also love the ADA strategies they incorporated into the project and how diverse the project impact is to the community. For the project management, I know it's a very beautiful initiative, and the project is well managed and financially achievable. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Kyle?
I agree with a lot of the same sentiments. It seems very well thought out. I think one thing I had was if there's any input for community input engagement, possible town halls for, I see that there was a lot of surveys between vendors, and I did see that there was kind of a survey for participants, but I think maybe in a group setting would be interesting for future community input. But the project management seems pretty good. I would also like to see some visual artistic examples. A lot of the examples were very musical based, and they did mention how they had other interdisciplinary artists involved. So I'd like to see some of that in future applications. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kyle. Any other comments? Okay, if you want to finalize your scores. Okay, I think we're good to go, and we can bring Elise back. And then we'll move on to the next applicant, which is Happy Tree Art Studio. And the first reader is Sue.
This is the third year for this program, but it's the first time they're bringing music to the program. They were starting surveys for the first time this year. They have done face-to-face evaluations before, but that's not always as fair an evaluation, just because they had a very detailed community involvement. And I love how they are working closely with the junior and senior high school art classes, and now the music department. I think that makes for inclusivity. Anytime you can bring the schools involved in it, that helps touch a group that maybe is much more varied. That's about all I have.
Okay, Blanca.
Yeah, I echo some of what Sue said. I also noted that this project has a strong desire to continue something that's filling a hole in the current community curriculum. So they stated that there's no art program in the public school at this time. And so they're kind of filling that gap for the community. I also think it's really great that they're trying to expand past just visual arts, and they're trying to include music programming, which again is missing from the public school curriculum. As far as their community and idea category here, I thought it was great that they were trying to include all of the schools. However, I did want to see them mention more of how they're trying to promote racial or cultural equity within this program, and how they're going to make it more accessible for those community members who may be disabled. There was no mention of ADA accessibility or making this program accessible to those with disabilities. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments from the group?
I really would have loved to see just an outline of the exact classes being offered, maybe by season, just to understand all the things that they're going to be hitting throughout.
Thanks. Okay, if you want to finalize your scores. Okay. I think we should take a break here. Maybe just stretch our legs and kind of reset our minds a little bit. So if you want to go off camera, and we can check back in 4 minutes. How's that sound? Okay, if everybody's ready, can move on. Sue and Ty, as soon as you're ready to come back on camera, or just let me know.
How do I do that?
Oh, okay. You're ready.
I am. I'm here,
It's
but
not
I'm
allowing,
here,
it's not
so-
allowing us to, because I think the moderator or somebody took us off video. So
Oh, there we
okay.
go.
there we go.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so we'll jump back in. The next applicant is Ivy Tech Community College. And the first reader is Elise.
All right. So I noted that they definitely outlined a desire from the community for this programming, which I think was really important in this application, and the positive impact that it would have on arts and culture. So whenever I see a community desire for something, I'm always encouraged. And then I saw that there was one artist being financially compensated, and I was curious if the performers and vendors pay to participate or they volunteer. So I don't know if I missed that, but that was a question that I had. And then I was curious what strategies were in place to accomplish how they outlined it as striving to include diverse artists and art in our Comic-Con and host in a way that makes it accessible to all members of our community. So they outlined it really well. I just wanted to know what the strategies are that fulfill that claim. And then, yeah, that's all I had.
Okay, great. Esther?
Yeah, so I noted that the project was nice, and also that they needed to be more explicit on their strategies, the project impact, and how they implemented feedbacks that they received on previous projects. That wasn't mentioned, and it would be great to see that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there any additional comments? Okay, if you want to finalize your comments and scores. All right, I think we're ready to move on. Okay, the next applicant is Jackson County Community Theater. The first reader is Ty.
All right. I think one of the things that stood out to me was this is another project that has multiple years of a presence in their community. I think this is going to be their 54th season at the Jackson County Community Theater. So that's great to see. And one of the things that stood out immediately from the application was that their performances are going to be feedback driven. So they're listening to what the community is saying, and they're implementing some youth performances and then a combination of youth adult type performances. So different genres that are going to be touched in the diversity of the performances with youth adult, and then the combination. Great use of local actors and directors, I feel like, from the project. Something that's very admirable from my perspective is that the volunteer board of directors, 100% of those volunteer board of directors donate financially to the organization. So that not only is their time, effort, but also their resources. So I think that that's very admirable from the board of directors, and they got good leadership there with the organization. One thing that I really like to see was the off-site performance that takes place in Seymour, because that's really an opportunity to broaden their audience outside of just their local theater location. So good use of off-site location there in Seymour to broaden that audience. The application itself was well written, very descriptive. I thought that the timeline was good. I like to see the volunteers are recognized based on results of performance surveys. for the Jackie Awards. So I thought that was a very clever way of implementing some type of recognition as well. So overall, I don't think that I had anything additional to add on that one.
Okay, great. Thank you. Second reader is Blanca.
I echo a lot of the same sentiments that Ty had. I do appreciate that they outlined explicitly what people are volunteers and what people are being paid. So that way there's no confusion as to who's actually being compensated. And then the other note I have is that they state that they're working towards diversity, but I would have liked to see how they're implementing more diversity within their programming. Other than that, I don't really have any additional feedback.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the group? You can go ahead and finalize your scores and comments. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Move on to the next, which is Jennings County Historical Society. The first reader is Kyle.
I think this is very well written and very well thought out. I really liked the highlighting of traditional art forms such as blacksmithing and basket weaving. I think that's also kind of not very well appreciated in today's times as well. And then I liked the support of traditional artists, interpreters, musicians. So it's very all well-rounded in artist support. And I liked the aspect of bringing community engagement and idea. They received community input, and then I liked the inclusion of wanting to include more history of the Underground Railroad, and then bringing in Spanish speakers to broaden their experience for translation. And overall, I think the budget and overall project management seems pretty well thought out. So thank you.
Great. Second reader, Esther.
Yeah, I enjoyed reading through this, and the project was very clear. I also love the fact that they included the statistics of underserved communities. And to me, this shows they are very purposeful in making impact with art. And one addition that I would like to see is that they cover more stories, because we have few people doing historic preservation, and it's really great to learn from the past. So like covering more stories in this line will be great to see. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
I did want to understand, sorry, regarding the criteria of authentic experience. From that lens, I wanted to understand a little bit more about what history is being chosen to tell, and how the program plans to tackle concepts like the Underground Railroad in an educational and informative way without causing harm to people that are impacted by the systemic racism of that history. And so just I wanted to understand more about whose history is being told. Are we being clear when it's folklore or ideas about things that have happened in the past that may not actually be historical? I did see people on the team that were historians, but I just wanted to see a little bit more about some of those details for just the criteria of an authentic experience.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? We can finalize scores. Okay. And we will move on to North Vernon Main Street, and the first reader is Blanca.
So the North Vernon Main Street is a community mural proposed project. The project displayed strong community ties and benefits. The mural process was clearly outlined and described. Artists who were being paid and who were volunteer-based are clearly identified, and what roles they're playing within the mural process were also clear. I liked that the inclusion of students and people of all abilities was mentioned. However, there was no mention of how they plan to diversify and include people of various races and ethnicities within the planning and execution stages of this mural. And then a question that I posed to them is, how are we ensuring that all community members are being equally represented in this community mural project?
Thank you. Elise?
Yeah, so just to add to that, I wanted to commend them for the attempt to democratize the process by having a call for artists. I think that's really great. It gives people an opportunity to be a part of it that you may not have known before. It's a great way to foster community-based experience. And then, let me see. I really also appreciated the clarity on the public programming aspect of the project and how you could get involved virtually, and how there's that increased ability to participate if you can't be there in person. That's great. Yeah, that's really all I had extra.
Great. Any other comments? Okay, go ahead and
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, I love their social media strategy and use of hashtags. Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that in. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, if you want to go ahead and finalize your scores. Okay, and we will move on to the Ohio County Public Library, and first reader is Ty.
All right, on this one, kudos to the leaders at the library. They really identified a need for art in the community, not only at the school level, but in the community at large, with both children and seniors. And a lot of that was based on feedback that they had from a survey and implementing into their 5-year plan. I love the idea that it's free, so it really doesn't limit our audience there. So the free art classes is important. You know, with a small community such as Rising Sun or Ohio County, those are some pretty good projected numbers of participants. So I think that they are recognizing that there is an opportunity for good participation and a need in the community. You know, this is a new project from what I understand, or a new attempt at a project. So it's kind of that, you know, if you build it, they will come mentality. So I really commend the individuals that are listening to the community to try to implement this into the Rising Sun, Ohio County area. It notes on there that 2 local artists were asked. Kind of my curiosity would be like an open call to implement or, you know, introduce additional beyond the 2 that were asked, or maybe there's only 2 local artists that have a level of interest. I didn't feel that the timeline was necessarily clear in regards to the overall project. Not a hindrance, but not necessarily clear. Very strong leadership at the director level, but is there any other individuals that will be involved? It wasn't really outlined of who else would be assisting with the program. And then there wasn't a lot of depth to the budget. It was very kind of cut and dry in terms of the budget. I don't know that it may be that cut and dry and that simple, but I would also like to see a dollar value on those in-kind. Sometimes in-kind contributions show buy-in from the community, and those are just as important as the actual dollar contribution. So a little bit more clarity on the in-kind contributions, I think, would have been important as well. But that's all I had.
Great, thank you. Kyle?
I agree with similar sentiments. I would also like to see some more introduction of the artists in the artistic quality / example section. And then within community engagement and idea, there seems like there's some additional information that seems a bit outside the scope of the prompt. I think answering the questions pretty clearly seems to be vital. And other than that, I agree with not quite a clear timeline, maybe a month-to-month timeline to kind of slowly plan out throughout the year would be a little bit more useful. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Kyle. Anyone else?
Yeah, I totally agree with all that has been said, but I also want to throw in that they get this project, it will definitely bring a revival to the community, saying that's what they're trying to achieve. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. If everyone wants to finalize their scores. Okay. And we will move on to the Ohio County Tourism, and the first reader is Esther.
Yes, so under the artistic quality, I noted that the intent of the project is clear and nice. So clarity about the impact of this project and how it will be achieved is needed, as well as specificity on the targeted audience, because I didn't really get that clarity on who the target audience is. Then a tone down on the generic nature of this proposal would help also. Under the artistic support, it is great to see that the artists are being sourced locally. It will be nice if some form of education about musical genres can be added to further the proposal on knowledge increase. And seniors will be glad if this form of education is included. Under the community engagement, I like that they mentioned the statistics they used during consideration for visibility of the project. It was interesting to read that. It is really key also to see that their main target is to attract people to the area and possibly keep them for a long time within the city. That's a very nice strategy they have there in their community engagement. And for the project management, the project overall is planned and well thought of. Looking at the duration of the project, though, I hope the quoted sum would finance it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ty?
From a marketing perspective, Friday Fun and Rising Sun, I dare you to try to get that out of your head the rest of the day. It's very catchy, so I think it's something that will catch on and will help promote that that event. You know, each month there in Rising Sun. So very similar to what she said. I like what Esther commented about, you know, the long term, trying to get people into that community long term by bringing them into the community for the events. Free and friendly events seem to be accessible to all audiences. You know, let's see, seems to be great leadership on the project and lots of people involved to help make it happen. I know that it was mentioned in there based on their location, possibly utilizing music artists from Ohio and Kentucky, but I think that they'll find that there's a great deal of talent, musical talent in southeastern Indiana. So I think in their own backyard, they're going to have quite a few musical acts that'll support this project and won't have to look outside of southeastern Indiana. So nothing additional that Esther didn't already comment on.
Okay, great. Any other comments from the group? Okay, if you want to finalize your scores. Okay. And then we can move on to Ripley County Tourism Bureau. First reader is Elise.
Okay, so the ability for their programming to be free and open to the public was a clear benefit for this programming. Let's see. So oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong tourism one. This one does have ticket prices. Okay, so I actually said would provide, okay, so this Ripley County Tourism Bureau packet does provide a great creative space for painters of all levels to experiment and network. I thought that was really important. So it's engaging career artists, but also hobbyists, but also anybody who's just interested in it. So only through the awards to the artists and stipends do the artists benefit financially. Just taking note of that. And then it's clear that the applicant is interested in enhancing the community's art and culture opportunities. They talked a lot about how there's sort of a drought of art and culture opportunities. So this would bring something to fill that hole. The entrance fee, however, I was curious if that limits accessibility for artist participation. And it looks like the leadership is put together thoughtfully with a budget, and that's all I had.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sue?
Well, you're very complete there, Alyssa. I like the idea that they're involving one of the natural resources of Versailles. The state park is a great place to do that. Networking with artists, that's a great way for the youth to see what the older senior members are doing. But that's about all I had.
Okay, other comments?
I love the learning by observation strategy they employed. And, art based on community interest is rare to come by. And I love the fact that they are taking on the feedback from their previous execution to improve on it. And this one, that was interesting for me to read about. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, if you want to finalize your scores. Okay, and we'll move on to Southern Indiana Tyco Inc. And the first reader is Blanca.
So Southern Indiana Tyco Inc. is a specific type of drumming. It's a Japanese taiko drumming and musical performance programming that they're wanting to implement. I stated here that the application demonstrates a strong and well thought out project regarding this specific type of musical style. The work examples that they included were excellent and really demonstrated the skill of the teachers and performers included in this, as they're trying to establish, sorry, my dog's making a lot of noise. They're trying to establish an after-school program that's accessible for students. The only issue that I really had within this application at all was there wasn't really much of a mention of making the project accessible to people with disabilities, or how they would adapt their program for someone with disabilities to participate in the drumming exercises. And then there was no emphasis on any racial or cultural diversity. And so with that, there is a concern about lack of representation within the organization itself regarding the practice that's representative of another culture.
Okay.
And that's really all the feedback I had.
Thank you. Kyle?
I think the one thing that stood out to me was being able to fund the volunteers for their work in instruction. Because previously being a volunteer, I think it's great to have some type of stipend or compensation to for food, traveling expenses, etc. And then let's see. One thing I was going to say too is how can future input shape the structure of the project? I'm sure that will ebb and flow as it gets formalized in the future. But other than that, that's pretty much what I have to say too. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any additional feedback?
I had never heard of this before, and I got mesmerized by the video, the YouTube thing. I couldn't stop watching it. It was just, I was really taken by it. So it opened my eyes to something new, and I was excited for it. So, and you could tell they were all excited for it. It was just a really neat performance that they showed. So that's all.
Great, thank you. Okay, if everyone wants to finalize their scores on this one. Okay. So this concludes the fiscal year 24 Arts Project Support Panel for Region 9. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant following the June Indiana Arts Commission meeting. If you have any questions in the meantime, please contact Kim Wadholm, your Region 9 Arts partner. Thank you.